What's up, Warrior Nation? Welcome to the first ever episode of a project we're calling the Warrior Rewind, where we take time to visit with Valley Christian High School athletics alumni and other faces around campus. My name is Rob Fair, class of '09, and I'll be the host of this program. I also have the pleasure of serving VC as a football coach, lacrosse coach, and assistant athletic director. It's our hope that this series will not only provide a special opportunity to strengthen the Warrior community, but that we may also offer distinctive insight into the unique backgrounds of the Warriors we'll be spending time with. Let's get to it. Our first ever guest on this show is not an alumni, but definitely qualifies as one of the more prominent faces around campus. Adam Tafralis, perhaps better known as Coach Taff, is a member of the San Mateo Sports Hall of Fame following a fantastic multi-sport career at Mills High School. A graduate of San Jose State University, Adam was a record-setting quarterback and would go on to play professionally in the NFL and the CFL. Since then, he has worked in an advisory role with companies such as Nike, Skills, Vice's football helmets, the American Flag Football League, the NFL Network, and Game Time. Most of us recognize him best as the Director of Human Performance here at Valley Christian. And of course, he'll tell you his most important roles are as a husband to his wife, Jessica, and as a dad to his daughter, Claire, and son, AJ. Coach Taff, thanks for being here.
What's up, Coach Fair? Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you being our first guest on the show. This was the Warrior Rewind was kind of a brainchild of ours, so it's only fitting that you be the guy to kind of kick us off as our inaugural guest.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you and I have talked about this, but this has been something since I came on board. I was obviously a public school guy and always kind of wanted that, that feel of belonging to a school and that movie-like feeling of stepping on a campus, being a part of something that's bigger than just you, something that you'll come back for. And roughly 7.5 years ago, Valley Christian and I got connected, and I had always known about Valley through San Jose State and teammates and Coach Machado and all the gravitas that comes with that. But the minute you and I kind of started talking about this, I just said, I think this has been something on my heart that I just feel that Valley Christian has a story to share. And even though it's a young school compared to some of the others, it really is a unique campus with a ton of history in its short-lived. But it outside of what the school has done in the athletics community, I think our reach actually spans very, very far. And that's one of the things that we really try to do on an everyday basis, right? Is reach and be as good and as excellent as we possibly can be, right?
Totally. Well, Coach, you've definitely been around Valley long enough that you are definitely defined as a warrior. You are in your core a warrior. You're not an alumni, but that doesn't mean that you're not an extremely important part of the Warrior Nation. So my first question for you is, what does being a warrior mean to you?
This question is a great one for me because, I embraced it before I even got there. I had heard so much and was so excited about starting this job that 7.5 years ago, I remember sitting down with Coach Machado and Mr. Scherenberg, and they just kind of talked about culture. And I don't want to say kind of. They talked about culture, and they talked about what it meant to them to not just be a warrior themselves, but to embrace that mentality, bring that into their family, bring that into the everyday life. And I think from day one, I'm sure those guys 7 years ago would say, man, that guy was tough right off the bat, because I walked in the room talking about we're going to beat everybody. There's no reason that we can't be the greatest that anybody's ever seen. And I still believe that today. But I think what I understand today and what I know after my time as a warrior, that greatness and that being a warrior doesn't always equal W's and L's at the end of games. It really is about the community and about the athletes and the families and how they're embraced and how they reach to each other. I'll give you a quick story, that sometimes when you're in it, you really don't know how the impact is setting in with kids. I had a kid in another school that I've been mentoring, and that's one of the cool parts about my role, is that I get the ability to reach out and help kids all across the country. And this kid was a high recruit, and he got hurt. He got hurt really bad, and his season was over. And his mom's texting me scared because scholarships are walking away. And a kid from Valley Christian was the first text that I got outside of anybody in that injured kid's family, saying, "Coach Taff, I heard about your quarterback at that other school. I just wanted you to know that I'm praying for him, and I wanted you to know that I don't know him, but if you could let him know that I'm here for him if he needs me, and that I can't wait to see him play again." And I went, whoa,
Wow.
that's it.
Wow.
You don't know when those moments are going to happen, but that moment happened.
Yeah.
And I had nothing to do with it except for being a conduit between something on campus and a kid in need. And those guys now know each other, and they're buddies, but they're competitors. That's the biggest thing about this.
Yeah.
They have to play against each other.
Yeah.
And you see it all over the place on our campus. You see it on the football field a lot, in terms of how we play. When you knock somebody down, you help them up,
Help them back up.
right?
Yeah.
But I think the spirit of being a warrior is that God's going to reveal himself in a lot of different ways at a lot of different. And when you are a warrior like we are, you're preparing yourself for it, and you're staying ready, and you're just trying to grow day by day in a way that you might be an example, mm-hmm. or a mentor, or a role model, and those come in all ages. So that's my little bit about being, what it meant to be a warrior. And it takes time. Sometimes God reveals himself day one. Sometimes he reveals himself, 7 years in. But
it is so it's so awesome being at Valley Christian, where we're on this quest for excellence. It really is nonstop, and those moments happen all the time if you're looking for them, if you're praying, if you're faithful. It really is a special place to be. On that topic, on the quest for excellence topic, how would you define excellence?
That's a good question. So for me, my whole purpose of being an athlete, and I grew up in this. My dad was an Olympic athlete. My mom was a 4-year varsity starter and college level athlete. My sister was a college level athlete. Literally you could trace back as far as you can find us. And we are big, athletic, very grit driven people. We love to get down and dirty and love to be a part of the everyday struggle that makes you stronger for tomorrow. My grandpa used to say. But the thing for me has always been consistency, right? I got to play for a really important coach, Dick Tomey, and who recently passed away of cancer. But Dick was a huge mentor in my life. And the thing, when I was done playing for him, he said, "Man, I used to get mad at you, and man, you are not always going to be the best in the room. But when somebody shows up every day in the same way and just tries to get a little bit better, it's infectious. And some days you are the best. Some days you're going to be middle of the pack. Some day you're the worst. But if you show up every day, that bar is set. And your teammates and your coaches and your friends and your family get to decide where they fall on that bar. Are they going to rise above it, or are they going to follow behind it?
Yeah.
But at least by showing up every day and being consistent, you're setting the bar.
For
And
sure.
I use that in the HBC all the time when we talk about why it's so important to be around other kids. It's so important to be around other kids and be with your teammates, because you can go anywhere and they can pat you on the back and say you're the greatest in the world, right? But when you play a sport, you're playing with a team. You're playing for what's on your chest, what's on your back,
Right.
right? And when the best player doesn't show up to be at work with their teammate, the bar hasn't been set at the best. And
For
so
sure.
that's the biggest thing that we try to really, and I do that on every day, is what are you showing up for? You're showing up either to grow, number one, but number two, set the bar. Because you might have somebody that follows you, you might have somebody that you're following, right? Raise your bar every single day. And that happens with consistency. So that's that's it for me every
For
day.
sure. And I've had the pleasure of meeting your dad, and shook his big Olympic thrower hand. I mean, I can only imagine how being in your household, how sports allowed you an outlet to raise that bar every day, to seek excellence at a young age, to build those lifelong habits. So what my next question is, what is one thing that sports has done for your life that most people wouldn't expect?
Goodness, that's a good question. I think the obvious things are it's shaped my career, right? It's fueled a mentality. But I think the thing that people don't understand, and you said it at the beginning, is I do a lot of consulting work outside of here, large corporations, Silicon Valley startups, and the big thing that sports has really done, and not in the way that you might think, is it's actually made me a savvy businessman. And I use that without ego and telling myself I'm great. I'm not. I'm always growing. Um, but what it's done for me in the business world, and especially in development, which is a big area that I work in, um, is it's allowed me to listen to people and read environments, right? Most people would think sports allows you to work hard and be disciplined. Yeah, that's the given. But for me, and especially being a quarterback, it's helped me understand roles. It's helped me understand when some people can't carry their weight and some people can carry more weight. People that are out of position, people that need to be pushed.
For sure.
And I think that's kind of the biggest thing. And you don't realize how much that is. And kids that would be listening to this would go, oh, I don't even know that that's part of my dad's job or my mom's job. My wife is a very accomplished professional. And so much of what she comes back to has to do with what she learned playing field hockey. And that's just the truth of it, is that sports does help you frame your work ethic, but it also allows you to be a teammate, allows you to be a coach, a listener, right? Support staff and leadership. So
Yep.
I think that would be it for me, is that it's really shaped me in my professional career as an adult.
Sure. Well, and that actually really segments super well into my next question for you, and that is, what would you do if ball went away? In other words, most of us are cooped up right now during this COVID-19 chapter of the world right now. We're shelter in place. Spring sports seasons have been postponed. And so if you were not in a place where you were active, either as an athlete, a coach, a trainer, or even in the different athletic businesses that you're involved in, if sports were not in your life, what would you do? What would you be doing?
That is such a loaded, loaded, hard question, and not just for me. Obviously, I have my daughter Claire and my son AJ, who, we're right for the last couple weeks we've been sitting here in our house, and me being who I am, and them being the active kids that they are, that most of the time we're talking about sports or competing, or who can do handstands, who can do cartwheels, who can, hit a baseball off the tee, who's, we got a little basketball hoop in the backyard, who can make as many in a row. So a good portion of our playtime is built around sport. And I thought about this, you and I were talking the other day, and I thought about this where I was just going, my goodness, right now, there is no sport in the traditional sense. But I take this back to when I was at San Jose State. I took a class where we had to define sport, right? So the world is changing right now. And I think the big thing that you have to do is you got to be able to define what sport is to you, because sport as I know it, when I can't watch Sports Center the same way. I can't, the Giants should be playing right now. NBA should be in the playoffs. I should be at San Jose State spring game. All those things are my normal. But I have to go back to just defining what sport is. Sport is being active and creating competition, to me.
Right.
And everybody's going to have their own definition of it. But I think we will find, and for some of us that, are goofballs and watch, some of these goofy movies, or the dodgeball of the world is just as much a sport right now as the NFL, because there is none.
Yeah, ESPN 8, the Ocho, they're streaming dodgeball.
Yeah.
Yes.
Obscure Sports Quarterly. I'm going to start, I guess I got to start making the magazine, right? And the truth is, yesterday, AJ goes, Dad, we do a workout time in our backyard, just to like they would do PE. And he was like, oh, can we do, and he made up a little obstacle course. And that was his own doing. And it had jumps, it had make a basketball shot, it had jumping jacks. And he was like, who could do it faster? That's as much as a sport as anything.
Yeah.
And he's learning just as much in that for right now as he can. And thank goodness he's got his sister. And yesterday my thing was, how can we do it as a team? Right? That was my little theme to them. They didn't like that as much.
Yeah.
They like beating each other. So
right. I don't want to be on her team. Come on, Dad.
Moment as a dad, but without sport, I just think we'd create something new that we could compete in. I think that people understand it's even without jobs, right? The human race and man and woman, we need purpose. And I think sport gives us, outside of a task, it gives us some purpose.
Yeah.
Something that we can define ourselves on how we work. And I think we'd find a million, just like the Greeks found, the ways to make the Olympics up. I think we'd do the same thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And right now, all with social distancing, obviously. Right?
Yeah, right. 6 feet apart.
It's fine.
Yeah.
The way I looked at it is I can stay 6 feet in front of you while you're chasing me. That's no problem to me.
There it is. All right. Here's a kind of a fun, thoughtful question for you. If you could spend 1 hour with 3 different people, 3 separate hours, 1 hour with each person, they can be dead or alive, who would those 3 people be? And a quick, why would you choose them?
Man, I think I would have to define it in like the 3 areas of my life: my faith, my family, and my passion. Right. Mm-hmm. I think that would kind of cover the things. Somebody at the top of the sports world ever to do it. I luckily got to play with Peyton Manning, who, if I didn't, he'd be on that list because he's a unique individual, and I think he'd just be fun to hang out with.
Yeah.
A random one would be Jerry Lewis. I love Jerry Lewis.
Okay.
Jerry Lewis was. I had every tape, and then I had every DVD.
Yeah.
And how he found a way to be funny and unique and give back, and I'm very intrigued with entertainment. So Jerry Lewis would definitely be one. Everybody would probably say the Martin Luther King, but I think I'd probably go somebody more of a missionary, somebody that had to travel, somebody like a Mother Teresa, somebody in that category that had to step out of their comfort and go somewhere and really be isolated and vulnerable. And not that Martin Luther King wasn't. He traveled all over this country and lived through, lived a remarkable life. I think the last one, if I could go back and spend an hour, to be honest, it'd probably be my grandfather when he was a kid. I want to know more. He was an adopted, so he lived through the Great Depression and kind of got bounced around and ended up getting adopted and moved around and saw a lot that I just didn't get to hear about.
Wow.
And I think it would give me a better understanding of me and the world at a different time. So, and I'd get to see my grandfather.
That's super cool. Great answers, all of them. On that same vein, actually, this is kind of our last question or series here. If you could go back and tell yourself something go back to when you were a freshman or a sophomore, an underclassman in high school, what would you go back and tell underclassman Coach Taff?
Oh my gosh, Rob.
Knowing what you know now.
There's not enough time in the world.
One piece of advice for young 15-year-old Coach Taff.
Check your ego.
Okay.
That is that for me. I was a kid that came from a family of athletes. My dad was an Olympian. I was very talented at a very young age. I was very big at a very young age. And so I was kind of always the first picked kind of kid.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I lived in a world where my dad was a larger than life character, right? He was like a WWE superstar.
Yeah.
And actually those guys were in my house hanging out. I mean, guys like Hulk Hogan be at my house.
Wow, that's
so
cool.
That type of mentality is what I walked around with as like a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
Obviously, when you get to high school and now you're the varsity this, that, and the other. But I made a lot of decisions in my life that ego took me down a wrong path, from not doing as well in high school and missing out on scholarships because of it in my grades.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking that my talent was enough, even though I worked really hard and I trained and I did all those other things, but I ignored the things that I wasn't good at. I just focused on what I was better than other people at. To decisions I made in college that got me in trouble with coaches, to choosing which NFL team to go to because I thought I was better than the starter and shortening my career because of that. Ego can get in your way in a big, big way. And as doors open, I think for me, the thing that I look back on is that people weren't shutting doors on me. I was closing them on myself. And that's one of the things that you hope that you can instill in people, or at least help them understand that doesn't have to happen to them.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's something that I'm always working on. Now, I'm not going to be the quiet, most humble, driven person in the world.
Sure.
Because I like being loud. I like being competitive, and I like being challenging. Right. Most of the kids I think that have come through Valley Christian, I tell them all the time. I go, man, love me or hate me, we're going to get better regardless. I'm either going to be your fuel because you love me, or I'm going to be the fuel because you're going to prove me wrong. And I'm good with both of those.
Yeah.
And at the end, hopefully you understand that it was all done out of love. But, I talk to them about that a lot. I talk a lot about egos. Putting it in check when it's time to be in check.
For sure. Last little bit here. Same question, but you go back to high school and you see upperclassman Coach Taff, either as a junior on the eve of your last, year in high school, or you're a senior. You're already done. Your last season's over. You're about to head off to college. What one piece of advice would you have for 17, 18-year-old Coach Taff?
The one piece of advice before I left for school, clean your room. Your roommates do not like that you're a messy
Oh no,
slob.
you were that guy?
you can make a lot of friends or lose a lot of friends
Yes.
by just being the guy that stores the dishes under your bed.
Love
I
it.
was that guy.
Oh
I was
no.
that guy.
Oh no. You left the bowl with the milk and the cereal in the sink.
No, in my room. Yeah, I
Oh,
was
that's
that guy.
even worse. That's even worse.
It didn't even make it to the sink. Yeah.
Right.
that I guess that would just come down to doing the little things. Do the little things. Clean your dish.
All right. Well, hey, Warriors, you heard it here from Coach Taff. While you're at home, you're in quarantine, you're in shelter in place, take some time, clean your room. Coach Taff, thanks for being our first ever guest on the Warrior Rewind. I've already taken up enough of your time. I appreciate you sharing some insight, sharing some background, and just kind of open it up and allowing the Warrior Nation to see inside a little bit.
Thanks for having me. I can't wait to hear all the other people. I know that this Warrior family spans very, very far, and it's great to connect.
Speaking of connection, before you go, how can people that are listening get in touch with you either on Instagram or Facebook? Do you have an Instagram handle?
Yeah, you can. I mean, everything we're doing inside the HPC is on Instagram. I think VC_Warrior Strong. You can find everything I'm doing with my family. I'm an open book. So Adam Tafralis, I'm pretty much everywhere on social media. But I'm always looking to mentor or to be mentored by other warriors and other Christian leaders. I love being able to connect with people. So anybody that has the desire to talk, sit down, to get a workout in, or to run an idea by me, I'm always open ears. So,
all right, Coach Taff, thanks again for joining us. Have a great day, Warrior Nation. See you next time.